Aviation and scale modeling are inseparable. But there are aircraft without which scale modeling would be unthinkable. And today, we'll talk about 11 such aircraft. The Sopwith Camel is one of the most recognizable aircraft of the First World War. Introduced in 1917, it quickly became the main British fighter. It wasn't easy to fly and demanded real skill from the pilot, but in capable hands, it was extremely effective. In fact, more victories were scored in Camel than in any other Allied fighter of the war. Over time, the Camel became a symbol of early aviation itself, a compact biplane with exposed structure, fabric-covered wings, and an open cockpit. For many people, this is exactly what First World War aviation looks like. In scale modeling, the Camel plays a special role. It's one of those aircraft through which modelers discover World War I aviation: rigging wires, a visible engine, and a simple but expressive design. In 1/32nd scale, one of the most accessible options is the Academy kit. It's a large model that allows you to work on the cockpit and engine without being overwhelmed by complexity. It offers an impressive result while keeping the build enjoyable. The Sopwith Camel is a perfect example of an aircraft that became an essential part of scale modeling itself. The Fokker DR-1 is forever linked to the Red Baron, Manfred von Richthofen. His bright red triplane turned the DR-1 into one of the most recognizable aircraft of the First World War and made it a true icon. This aircraft became a symbol of the era of air duels and fighter aces. Even today, when people think of World War I aviation, the image of a red Fokker DR-1 is often one of the first that comes to mind. In scale modeling, the DR-1 holds a special place. The red finish, triplane layout, exposed engine, and rigging make it visually striking, but also demanding. Accuracy matters here. Wing alignment, rigging tension, and clean assembly all make a difference. One of the most impressive kits available is from Meng. It's large, complex, and expensive, clearly aimed at experienced modelers. But once finished, it becomes a centerpiece on any shelf. For those who aren't fully confident in their skills or want a more affordable option, Revell offers the DR-1 in several scales. These kits are simpler and more accessible, while still allowing you to build that iconic image, the Red Baron's red triplane. The Fokker DR-1 is a perfect example of how one aircraft and one pilot became inseparable from the history of scale modeling itself. The Spitfire is one of those aircraft without which scale modeling would be impossible to imagine. Its silhouette is recognizable even to people far from aviation. For Britain, it's a national symbol, and for modelers, it's pure classic. Spitfires have been built as scale models for decades in countless versions and scales. It became a kind of universal subject in the hobby, suitable both for a first aircraft build and for more advanced projects with detailed finishes and alternative paint schemes. In 1/48th scale, one of the best and most accessible options is the Airfix kit. It's well-engineered, logically designed, and offers a solid level of detail without unnecessary complexity. The build stays enjoyable, while still delivering a very accurate and recognizable result. The Airfix Spitfire in 1/48th is a model many people start with, and one they often return to later with more experience. In that sense, the Spitfire isn't just an aircraft, but one of the foundations of scale modeling itself. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 appeared in the mid-1930s and became the main fighter of the German Luftwaffe throughout most of the Second World War. It went through many different variants and served on every major front, from Spain to the final months of the war. This constant evolution is what made the Bf 109 one of the most important fighters of its time. In scale modeling, the Bf 109 holds a special place. Modelers have been building it for decades, exploring different versions, camouflage schemes, and small detail changes. It's often seen as a learning aircraft of the hobby, a model that teaches attention to detail and careful, precise assembly. In 1/48 scale, one of the most popular and reliable options is the kit from Tamiya. It's well-engineered, easy to follow, and known for excellent fit and clean geometry. The build process is straightforward, but the finished model still looks accurate and convincing. The Tamiya Bf 109 in 1/48 scale is a true classic of scale modeling. and a perfect example of why this aircraft is inseparable from the history of the hobby. The Mitsubishi A6M Zero entered service at the very beginning of the Second World War and quickly became the symbol of Japanese naval aviation. Early in the war, it stood out for its long range and exceptional maneuverability, giving it a clear advantage in the skies over the Pacific. Its weaknesses became apparent later, but by then the Zero had already secured its place in history. For scale modeling, the Zero is especially important. It represents a completely different design philosophy compared to European and American fighters. Light structure, thin wings, and distinctive markings make it instantly recognizable and very appealing to modelers. In 1/72nd scale, a very solid option is the Airfix kit. It's small, well-designed, and enjoyable to build. The kit isn't overloaded with parts, but still looks convincing and accurate once finished. The Airfix Mitsubishi A6M Zero in 1/72 is a great example of how a compact model can be simple, affordable, and still genuinely satisfying to build. The Junkers U-87, better known as the Stuka, is one of the most distinctive aircraft of the Second World War. Its angular shape, fixed landing gear, and famous dive sirens turned it into a symbol of the early years of the war and of dive bombing itself. From a military standpoint, it was a highly specialized aircraft. It was very effective under the right conditions, but became increasingly vulnerable as the war progressed. Still, its role and unmistakable appearance secured its place in aviation history. In scale modeling, the U-87 Stuka holds a special position. It's an aircraft that cannot be confused with anything else. Large wings, prominent landing gear, and a heavy, purposeful look give the model strong visual presence. In 1/48 scale, a solid and well-proven option is the Airfix kit. It's a modern release with sensible engineering and a good level of detail, allowing you to achieve an impressive result without excessive complexity. The Airfix Junkers U-87 Stuka in 1/48 scale is a classic subject, and one without which World War II aircraft modeling would be hard to imagine. The P-51 Mustang is one of the most famous American fighters of the Second World War, and arguably the ultimate symbol of U.S. wartime aviation. It entered service relatively late, but it changed the air war by providing long-range escort for bombers and helping secure air superiority over Europe. Over time, the Mustang became an icon not only of aviation, but of scale modeling as well. Its long, elegant shape, natural metal finish, and wide variety of markings make it an ideal modeling subject. For many modelers, this is the aircraft where they first experiment with metal finishes and more demanding paintwork. In scale modeling, the P-51 stands out because of its visual impact. Even without a diorama, it looks striking on the shelf and immediately draws attention. In 1/48 scale, one of the strongest options available is the kit from Edward. It's a modern, highly detailed model with excellent fit and thoughtful engineering. The kit is aimed at experienced modelers, but it delivers an impressive result straight out of the box. The Edward P-51 Mustang in 1/48 scale is a perfect example of how a legendary aircraft became an essential part of scale modeling history. The Messerschmitt Me 262 was the world's first operational jet fighter. It arrived too late to change the outcome of the Second World War, but it completely redefined the future of military aviation. With this aircraft, aviation moved from the piston era into the jet age. For scale modeling, the Me 262 is especially important. It represents a clear break from earlier designs. Jet engines, clean lines, and unusual proportions make it stand out immediately among propeller-driven aircraft and turn it into a very appealing modeling subject. In 1/32 scale, a solid option is the kit from Trumpeter. It's a large model, moderately complex, and definitely not cheap, but still manageable with a careful approach. The kit allows for good detail in the engines, cockpit, and overall structure of the aircraft. The Trumpeter Messerschmitt Me 262 in 1/32 scale is a serious project and a great example of a turning point in aviation, an aircraft that marks the beginning of a completely new era and an essential part of scale modeling history. The MiG-21 is one of the defining aircraft of the Cold War and the primary fighter of the Soviet bloc for many years. Introduced in the late 1950s, it became the backbone of fighter aviation in the Soviet Union and in countries aligned with Soviet military doctrine. For many air forces, the MiG-21 marked the beginning of the supersonic era. This aircraft became a symbol of East-West confrontation. Its sharp, aggressive shape and delta wing are still closely associated with the Cold War, arms races, and large-scale rearmament. In scale modeling, the MiG-21 holds a special place as a first supersonic fighter for an entire generation of countries. The wide range of operators, paint schemes, and variants makes it a very appealing subject for modelers. In 1/48 scale, one of the best options available is the kit from Edward. It's a modern, highly detailed model with accurate geometry. The kit requires care and precision, but the build process remains logical and well-structured. The Edward MiG-21 in 1/48 scale perfectly captures the spirit of the Cold War and shows why this aircraft is an essential part of scale modeling history. The F-Phantom II is one of the defining symbols of Western aviation during the Cold War. Introduced in the late 1950s as a carrier-based fighter, it quickly evolved into a true multi-role aircraft: fighter, interceptor, and strike platform. The Phantom saw extensive combat use, most notably during the Vietnam War, and became a backbone aircraft for the United States and its allies for many years. The Phantom perfectly reflects the Cold War mindset. It's large, powerful, and purpose-built. Twin engines, heavy payload, and a distinctive silhouette give it a very different presence compared to earlier fighters. In scale modeling, the Phantom holds a special place. It offers enormous variety: multiple versions, operators, camouflage schemes, and weapon loads. It's an aircraft where modelers often learn to work with complex paint jobs, external stores, and larger airframes. In 1/48 scale, one of the most trusted and highly regarded kits is from Tamiya. It features excellent engineering, superb fit, and a very logical build process. Despite its size, the model goes together smoothly, allowing the builder to focus on detailing and finishing. The Tamiya F4 Phantom II in 1/48 scale is a Cold War modeling classic, and an aircraft without which the history of scale modeling would be impossible to imagine. The F-16 Fighting Falcon became one of the most recognizable fighters of the late Cold War and the post-Cold War era. Introduced in the 1970s as a light, agile, and relatively affordable fighter, it later evolved into a highly versatile combat aircraft that remains in service today. The F-16 changed the idea of what a modern fighter should be: fly-by-wire controls, exceptional maneuverability, and a strong pilot-centered design made it a symbol of a new generation of combat aircraft. It effectively bridges the Cold War era and modern aviation. In scale modeling, the F-16 holds a special place as one of the most widely used modern fighters. A huge number of operators, weapon configurations, and paint schemes make it a very rewarding subject to build. In 1/72 scale, an excellent option is the Tamiya kit. Despite its smaller size, it's a very clean and well-engineered model. The build is straightforward, the fit is excellent, and the finished result looks sharp and accurate. The Tamiya F-16 Fighting Falcon in 1/72 scale is a fitting conclusion to the list, and a clear example of how modern jet aircraft became an essential part of scale modeling. That's it for today. Share your thoughts in the comments, what you agree with and what you don't. See you in the next video.